today is called Decoding Underwriting Performance, Insights from Bordereaux Data. And we have lead experts here today from all over the world. We're going to hear what they have to say and how they have worked their data secrets and how you can have that same impact in your business. So we're thrilled to have you here today. Please note that at the end, you may ask any question you would like. Please put that in the chat, and we will have time for Q&A at the end of the session, at the end of the panel discussion. My name is Susan Winkler. I'm the Executive Director of Connecticut Insurance and Financial Services. We are part of the insurance capital of the U.S. in Hartford, Connecticut, and I'm so honored and pleased to be here today with my esteemed panelists, who now will introduce themselves as I call their names out. And we're going to start first with Tony Russell from VIPR. Tony.
Thanks, Susan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name, as you've already seen, is Tony Russell. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at VIPR Solutions. And I'm delighted to be talking about a subject that we're very passionate about in terms of the management of bordereaux throughout the global industry. Just to give you a sort of quick snapshot of who we are, we're an organization that's been around for 16 years. We specialize in the data collection, the cleansing and the consumption of data, all relating to the delegated arena. There are some numbers there. They're spinning all the time as we grow, and as you'll appreciate, the delegated market is growing massively throughout the world as we speak. And I'm not sure there is an insurance company and or a managing agent that isn't looking to increase their exposure in the delegated space. So as a provider of solutions for that market, again, delighted to be here, and hopefully we'll give you some insight as to how we're helping organizations improving their processing capability, but most importantly, getting data and turning that into valuable insight.
Thank you, Tony. And our next panelist, Greg Massey, U.S. advisor. Greg, you and I have known each other for a while. You are the liaison for VIPR in the U.S. Would you give a little introduction to yourself, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Susan, and welcome, everybody. Yeah, I retired from Zurich about 3 years ago, where my last role there was heading up the program's MGA space, that division. So I'm keenly aware of the delegated space and has been the U.S. North American advisor for VIPR over the last 3 years. So looking forward to our chat today. So thank you, Susan.
Great. We're looking forward to your perspective, Greg. And our last panelist, Rahul Bhatia. Rahul, we are so excited you're here from SIKICH. Could you give us a little insight into who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate it. Happy to be here. My name is Rahul Bhatia, and I lead and manage our insurance technology consultancy practice at SIKICH. So SIKICH is a global professional services company. We're really focused on helping organizations modernize and innovate in today's fast-paced environment while also managing and maintaining regulatory compliance needs. Our insurance vertical focuses on P&C clients, and we help them really thrive in a connected ecosystem while focusing on solutions and innovations that are adding true value and ROI to those organizations, right? We're a firm believer that we have a lot of clients that have already gone through digital transformations. And so there's a lot of modernization that can be done, a lot of really good solutions out there that can help sort of bridge the gap with some of the capabilities that they're looking for. Happy to be here and really excited about this conversation.
Right. We're happy to have you. And audience, we're happy to have you. Thank you for giving us your time today. As it relates to how the agenda is going to work and the discussion is going to go. So I'm going to let you know, we're going to talk about challenges, opportunities. We're going to get into the operational and technical considerations for you. And then, of course, at the end, we're going to talk about practical and success stories. There you'll have some real use cases to understand what is so important about the VIPR technology in bordereaux processing. But as I said, we're going to start off with challenging. And what is the challenges? So, Tony, I'm putting you right on the hot seat because this is near and dear to your heart. So if you could, what are some of the most common issues you're seeing in bordereaux reporting today?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think just before I go into that, it might be worth just sort of restating what's happening in the global market. We're predicted to be working with in excess of $260 billion worth of third-party work this year. So Delegated is going to contribute $260 billion. Over half of that is being collected in the States. So just when you look at those sort of statistics, it's very clear to see why there is a collection challenge. And what we're seeing throughout the insurance market is people are collecting data in possibly different ways. So what we're seeing in terms of the market is we're seeing data quality and consistent issues. So people are getting bordereaux, they're getting sent from their third parties. It's multiple different formats. It's inconsistent from month to month. And actually the challenge is to process and collect that data and turn it into insight. So we're seeing a lack of standardization in the world today. We're also seeing a lot of manual processing errors. So people are trying to do this and grow, but they're having to do a lot of manual input. So a lot of pre-cleansing of that data before they can start making sense of it. And obviously, quite a lot of this data arrives on a monthly basis. So it's a continual cycle. And I'm sure Greg has got some quite interesting comments about how that worked in the Zurich market. I think what that all leads us to is in order to get that data, in order to collect that data and cleanse that data, and we've got all sorts of techniques within our portfolio of doing that, what we're really trying and aiming for is to get some sensible data to report upon. Because at the end of the day, it feels a bit like Delegated has been a side of desk activity within the world of insurance. I'm certainly seeing that that's now something that's changing significantly, and people are now investing in the Delegated arena as it's growing, as we've said, quite extensively.
Yeah, but you mentioned manual. That's a key word, something you don't want to hear as in the world of digitalization and automation, right? But you mentioned the word, and you also mentioned that that's a challenge, but also the opportunity. Rahul, I'd like to ask you regarding manual, and how is the manual bordereaux processing holding companies back, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, manual processing is probably one of the biggest blockers that we're seeing with a lot of organizations as it relates to data and bordereaux management. So first of all, it's slowing everything down, right? From underwriting decisions to tracking loss ratios. You're always kind of reacting late instead of proactive and acting early. The other thing is we're seeing it's also driving up costs. A lot of time and resources are going into, and Tony mentioned it, cleaning the data, validating the data, reconciling it manually, right? This is all costing time and money for organizations. There's also risk of errors, right? So manual steps are increasing the chance of the inconsistencies that lead to compliance issues or honestly even strained partner relationships. So the other big thing that we're seeing is it just doesn't scale, right? So like as organizations and their volumes are growing and their organizations are growing, manual processes just can't keep up. So it's limiting the ability for organizations to grow and for them to really add partners.
Greg, you have any opinion on the challenges here that most companies face?
I do. Yeah, thank you. I think the key here is speed to reconciliation, speed to getting your money, speed to getting data in a consumable format, and speed to some type of actionable insight. I think, as Rahul brought up, it really drives headcount, which could be better deployed to more productive activities that help grow the top and bottom line or customer servicing. So I think speed is what it gets down to, and timeliness is, the calendar works against all of us. And the other thing is a lot of people look at bordereaux within our industry is just, it's a backroom processing thing. Someone will get to it sometime this month, and okay, you check the box, but are you really getting what you need from that to be a stronger and better organization?
Speed, time is money, old adage, right? I think everybody could relate to that. Everybody has said it before, and it's so applicable right in the conversation we're having today. But I'm going to go back now to Rahul. Be more specific. So now, what are some of the modern tools that can be used to modernize the bordereaux process or analysis?
Yeah, there's a lot of tools out there that are helping to manage data better and just modernization in general, right? And I think a lot of them focus on data visualization or data analytics. So a lot of our listeners have probably heard of obviously Power BI and Tableau and these data visualization tools, right? And they're really there to sort of help from a dashboard and reporting standpoint. There's also data platforms that are helping with, you know, data prep and ETL processes. But what we've seen in the organizations that we've talked to be most successful are industry-specific purpose-built tools. So if you have a solution that's built for bordereaux management, for example, that's going to offer things like automated ingestion, rule-based validation, performance dashboards right out of the box, right? So it's building for bordereaux and delegated authority management. And what we're seeing is a lot of organizations are looking for tools that are really industry specific and industry purpose built. And that's where I think a lot of the focus should be. Sure, there's a lot of tools that are going to help modernize and sort of data platforms out there. But if you can find one that's really built for the industry and for the task at hand, that's always going to be better. And that's always going to be more effective for organizations.
Let's get even to this, and we're going to be fast paced here. You know, we're talking about increasing speed. So, Greg, let's increase it. Let's keep the conversation fast as we talk about opportunities. I'm going to throw this at you, Greg. What types of underwriting insights can be uncovered when you start analyzing bordereaux in a structured, automated way?
Well, you know, there's a few things here. I think, you know, you look at VIPR, which is a solution out there, is really building triggers for risk selection, pricing, addition dates of forms and endorsements, aggregating risk characteristics, and then distribution management and insights. I think it's critically important that the carrier, or whoever's paper on, reinsurer, and the MGA, they're looking at the same information. Too many times it might be similar or it might be not too similar. And I'm not sure how people can come to the same conclusions in managing the portfolios. The other thing is, what are the key risk characteristics that are coming about? I know some of the insights that have been provided is, you know, really putting triggers in place or simulating the information as to where the exposure is coming, where the risks coming, what retailers, what geographic, are some overselling in some geographic concentrated areas versus others. And then really looking at the claim frequency as the exposure really changed or has pricing not kept up. And I really think the speed to insights really allow for impact on the portfolio, the complexion of the portfolio, either reshaping or shrinking. Too many times by the time of bordereaux, I've talked to some of folks in our industry where it has taken maybe a quarter or more to really reconcile. You just lost a quarter of the year. And the thing is, the quicker you get that, the quicker you can pivot on that portfolio. And it's not all about correcting the portfolio, corrective action. It's also about jumping upon opportunity out there to write more profitable business. So there's an opportunistic way out there in optimizing your portfolio.
Yeah, faster and better and getting ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, instead of being reactionary, getting ahead of it. So you talked some specifics, but I want to get even deeper now. So these insights you just talked about, you know, again, speed, time is money, the faster the better, you know, from the insights you're getting, what are those key business outcomes? Can you give some specificity? And Tony, I'm going to push this at you. What exactly should they expect? Are there pricing outcomes, loss ratio changes, binder performance? Can you be specific on, hey, this is what's in it for them?
Yeah, look, you've articulated a number of the real benefits. I think the first thing to say is that this whole sort of process is predicated on collecting the data in the first instance.
Right.
And I think, you know, we've got a lot of managing agents in the UK that are spending millions of pounds collecting data. That's before they even think about processing it and actually using it for intelligent sort of business transactions. So I think, you know, going right back to source, so the people that are writing the business, the people that are writing and delivering the submissions, we're now working with a lot of these guys and actually collecting the data at source and actually starting to cleanse that to a global standard, if you like, where we can then deliver reporting benefits out of that. So we're centralizing the data coming into the business. So that's coming in from multiple different sources on multiple different formats. As we said at the beginning, it changes quite a lot. But unless we get that data into a place where it's standardized, then actually all of the reporting tools, whether it's standard reporting tools, as Raoul's mentioned, and or AI even, it won't make any more sense of it. So we have to automate that process, and we are. We have to then look at sort of performance monitoring and oversight. And once we get that data into a standard format, and again, we've got tools and techniques for cleansing, for validating, all of the mapping is consistent. And then we can start really getting some benefit out of that data. But until we do that, then actually you're not going to get any kind of insight that's any kind of value at all, in my opinion.
I think we now agree, and we're nodding, and I'm sure the panelists and the audience are understanding now what the opportunity is, outlined it. So now, okay, let's say there's a consensus that we have an issue, and we've agreed to what the solution is. But a lot of people are afraid to take the step. Like, what is this step? And now they're working at, okay, we're nodding, yes, we want to do this. Where does automation come into play, and how could be introduced without kind of overhauling a system, adding headcount? You know, there's that step that has to be taken that's maybe a little frightening to say, okay, how do we do this in small steps? And Rahul, you and I have spoken about this. You have really good answers and insight into this. Please share.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the key areas, which is, you know, you really don't have to take huge bites of the apple, right? You can start small, you can start with a quarter turn, and from there really start to expand on any of the solutions that we're talking about in general, right? So I think when we look at automation and everyone's like, where do we get started? It doesn't have to mean a whole system overhaul, right? You can introduce it in layers, and you can plug it right into your existing workflows. And we're firm believers that you don't need to go through a complete disruption and a transformation. You can actually start to incorporate it in increments. And that's sort of how bordereaux management and data management works as well. You know, one of the things, and Tony mentioned this, it starts with automated ingestion and standardization, right? Until you standardize your data, you start taking your files in the different formats that you have that you're getting from brokers, MGAs, and converting it into a more consistent structure. You know, you're going to continue to have manual rework until you get that automation process set up properly. And then the other piece is, so focus on automated ingestion. That's an easy area that you can start to get automation going. The other one is really data validation and cleansing. So making sure that automated rules catch things like missing values or duplicates, and, you know, flag exceptions that actually need human review, so that you can really save human time on those things that they really need to focus on rather than everything. Automation can help with a lot of other things. And then third is really mapping and transformation. So you have your automated ingestion, you have your automated data validation and cleansing, and then you have your automated mapping and transformation, and just aligning the data with your internal models, whether it be your policy, your claims, your risk models, and using low-code tools that are out there that businesses can use to manage this, and you don't need to really focus on a huge IT spend in order to do it. So there are smaller increments of automation that can be achieved if you focus on the right things in the bordereaux management space.
That's beautiful. Greg, would you agree with that, with all of that was just said, that yes, small steps can be taken? And do you have any kind of validation of that statement?
Yeah. The only thing I do, you know, Tony and other folks at VIPR have chatted with potential customers in the past, and there's been situations where the bordereaux process, they're doing a great job at it. And you know, maybe there's some tweaks there or not. So, you know, the bottom line to really ask yourself, are you spending minutes or hours? And you know, certainly with a system like VIPR, a lot of it's instantaneous. But even more important to that is the transparency level. What stakeholders do you want to have access to that? The carrier may want to have maybe the TPA and also other folks within the organization, but the MGA to have access to the same information and jumping up. And the other thing is, you know, when you say not adding, you know, the head count, The problem is headcount tends to be added as, kind of reacting to a situation. Many carriers today are looking at their MGAs. They're underwriting the MGA as opposed to the program. That comes second. And the issue is there always going to be a program within an overall portfolio that's going to go sour. So the thing is who are the people that you're underwriting here that's running the program, and what controls and processes do they have in place so you don't get into that sour situation? And if you do, how quickly can you pivot to take corrective action? I think that's what's critically important here. And throwing bodies at it is not the answer.
Yeah, and Tony, I know you can talk to this because whether we call it sour space or governance or whatever it is, what role does that governance play in making the data reliable and usable at any scale that we're talking?
Well, I think I think again, it's a fair point. I think governance, regulation, all these good things are coming out of it, and I think that just going back to the point really that I'm not convinced up until the last 18 months that companies have really treated delegated as a key business driver. We were at a recent event in the UK. There were over 500 practitioners there, and there was a number of surveys that were undertaken about how they felt delegated was being accepted in their business. Over 50% of the respondents said that they believed that delegated was underinvested in terms of IT, and that they were still having to do a lot of manual operations. I think there's been a massive change in mindset. As we said, $260 billion growing at 20% per annum is saying, guys, we need to go after this market. We've seen a number of major global insurers enter the delegated market. We haven't seen that before. So people are now realizing that they've got to get to engage. And back to the points that both Raul and Greg have made, if you don't automate, you're not going to scale and you're not going to get the value, because quite frankly, throwing arms and legs at the problem isn't going to solve it. So I think it has to be a strategic intent of companies to say, we are now going to take delegated seriously. It is a massive part of our business. For example, in Lloyd's of London, it's approaching 50% of the gross written premium of business coming into Lloyd's. And that means Lloyd's are now paying very special attention to organizations that are processing delegated business, and they're squeezing them if they aren't automating and they're doing it manually. So regulations, all of these sort of things are vital. But by putting in an automated system, a lot of that capability is out of the box.
Yeah, well, the numbers speak for themselves, Tony. So thank you for that. We're going now into, I want to get down to, we've understood the challenges. We are accepting what the solutions are. We're looking that they're not big steps to take. They're safe steps to take. They're actually necessary steps to take. But there's still that building of trust. We still have to take a step. We need to trust our partners, our partnership. So I would like to start again back with you, Tony, because that's a very important part on how to build trust with your customers. So if you could share a real world example where the better use of bordereaux led to a measurable underwriting or operational improvement with your customer.
Yeah, great question. I think, look, we service companies globally. So we have in excess of 50 clients using our product now. We have a number of the senior major managing agents in London. We have 4 or 5 now in the US, which is our growth opportunity. And we have a number throughout the European market. There's a number of quite large managing agents that approached us to talk about the challenges that they were facing. So they were facing problems in terms of collecting data. They were very high manual operations within the business, and they were really not getting timely data in terms of reporting. So the solution was implemented, as Raul and we've covered a couple of times. We automated the ingestion of the collection of the data. We mapped, validated that data to give it a cleansing, and we've delivered dashboards in order for them to get some real insight. And what we've seen come out of that are a number of things. So the underwriting accuracy of the delegated book has increased just over 10%, and that's in the first year of operation, which as far as that organization was concerned was massive. They also found that they were having more business discussions about insight into the product and the way that the data that they were getting. And again, they felt that was a really, really big. We're seeing operational efficiency increase. And the last time we talked to this particular company, they'd seen their operational efficiency in terms of getting on new partners, processing data to increase by over 50% from what they were doing the year before. And obviously, the big byproduct of all this was they were regulatory delivering all the reports out of the box. So that was a really key thing. And I think the key thing is, and I'll read this, so I'm just going to get it right. This is the quote from the chief executive of the organization we dealt with. And he stated, by streamlining our bordereaux processes, we not only cut down the administration time, but also empowered our underwriting teams with timely insights critical to proactive decision making and growth. And that's a testament to an organization that hitherto were pretty much doing everything manually.
That's beautiful. I mean, that sums it up completely. You're making efficiencies to build time, strategic time to build business and business growth. So that you couldn't, that executive could not have said and could not have provided a better testimonial. Thank you for that. But Rahul, going back to you, you were the one that earlier said, hey, we could do this. We could do this slowly. We could take steps, small steps, large steps, but we're there for you. So could you give us, for an organization that's just starting this journey, in your opinion, what is the low-hanging fruit? What should they tackle first?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things to tackle first that are easier, what we call low-hanging fruit, or sort of quick wins that they can get that are going to make a big impact. I think one of the main one is standardizing the bordereaux templates, right? So ensuring that all the brokers, cover holders are submitting data in a consistent format, which is going to cut down a ton of manual cleanup and setting them up for next, which we talked about, which is automation, right? So first is really standardizing the bordereaux templates. Second one is, and we mentioned it, is automating their intake and their validation, right? And ensuring that they have simple rules-based engines in place to sort of help them with the automation process and catch things early on and improve their data quality. I mean, one of the things with manual bordereaux processing that I find crazy is that month after month, there's the same issues that a lot of organizations are dealing with and addressing, right? And they're kind of like, I sort of joke about it, and we've joked about it, Susan, is like the whole concept of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening right now with manual bordereaux processing, which is you're having the same types of validation errors, the same issues month after month. So if you can get in front of the process, if you can actually fix it at its root cause, it's just going to make everything more streamlined and hopefully prevent people from going insane. So,
yeah, and Greg, any insane insights? No, I'm just kidding. Not personally, but from a standpoint of, in your experiences, years of experience, have you seen what is a common pitfall or mistake that you see when they're trying to modernize their processes?
Well, I think what I don't overcomplicate it. Bordereaux can be complex, but people complicate things. And I do want to go back to kind of a combination of what Rahul and Tony was talking about. You talk about success stories. I think, getting on top of things that Rahul talked about, the biggest pain in my butt running P&Ls over all those decades was, the quality assurance, being risk aware. What do you got? The thing with a good bordereaux tool is to be able to put in those edits around or triggers or check marks around those characteristics that make the quality assurance good or bad. That could be forms and endorsements. Are the right addition dates on? You get back to the governance that Tony was talking about. And a lot of times these forms are the policies issued have the wrong addition dates or the wrong form number on. This gets at it in the same month that it's sent over. the risk aggregation, other underwriting swim lanes, such as, the building values or the sales value or class codes, that can all be programmed in from a trigger standpoint right up front. You're not overcomplicating it. You don't have people that are managing the quality assurance, which tends to be pushed out months later. And now you're looking in a rearview mirror that's really too far to really see. And you kind of have to wait to take action. So those are some of the things in the success stories that we have seen here that really changed. It's not to say that the organizations weren't doing this. They were doing it quarters down the road, or it was a heavy manual process. To what Rahul is saying is, how do you know it right now so you can get in front of it and make the correction in the system, as opposed to having several quarters or a year of wrong form addition dates on the policy, for example. So let's try to manage the complexion of that portfolio sooner rather than later. And that's what we've seen with Tony's customers.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add too is, it's not going to be 100% foolproof. I think really the goal here is to get it to the point where you're automating a lot of it. You're taking a lot of those, validation pieces inside. So you're really cleaning up the entire process. But I think what's really important to also look at is that there's traceability within a system, right? So you got to have an audit trail. You got to have the ability to actually know if there were edits that were made, that those are traced and that those are sort of in compliance with having an audit trail. So I think in addition to making sure that we're automating and we're standardizing, is there should be traceability, and that's really important for any bordereaux tool that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, are you saying something? You're on mute.
Sorry, apologies. That was a classic schoolboy error. One other thing, just to build on that slightly, is the word repeatability. So I think, one of the things we want to do here is when we get sight of an organization sending us bordereaux and we map and we validate that, from that point forward, the system has got some techniques for actually making sure that potentially goes straight through. So the next month we receive it, if the client or the partner sends that data in a slightly different way, changes the columns, messes around with the format, which I think probably everybody on the call has seen, then the system can take care of that. It will alert you to new columns. It will do all sorts of quite clever stuff to make sure that we're getting to a point where we can have proper business discussions with our partners and make sure the collection part of that process. I don't believe that gives you a competitive advantage. I think that should be business as usual, and we need to move it down. One other interesting fact that came out of a bit of research that we did was looking at how much data the insurance industry globally produces, and that gives us some idea of the task. And I learned a new word when we looked at this research. So it's predicted in 2025 we'll generate 100 exabytes of data, and 1 exabyte equals 1 billion gigabytes. Now, I don't know how to process that in my own head, but that sounds like a lot, and it's growing. It's doubling every 1 to 2 years. So this isn't going to go away. No. And I think, by setting it up properly, repeating it and being able to repeat it is something that gives people the opportunity to actually grow their business in that space.
Thank you. And in audience, we have about 6 minutes left. And please don't forget that if you do have a question, please place it in the chat and I'll take a look at that and make sure I pose those questions direct to the panelists. But I'm going to jump a little bit into AI because you can't have a discussion without touching the subject. And this team, the panelists, are very, very well adapted in this space. But I'm going to pose the question directly to you, Rahul. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for AI to improve the bordereaux management? Is it there yet?
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there.
Okay,
there's definitely good use cases around where AI is going to make some meaningful difference as it relates to bordereaux management and data management. I think one of them is file format recognition and mapping, right? So one of the biggest day-to-day headaches is dealing with inconsistent file formats and field names. And AI can act like a smart translator. It learns the quirks and it can auto map the data, so you're not manually remapping columns every month. So we've definitely seen use cases of where AI can help with sort of smart translations and smart auto mapping. The second one is AI is really good at catching what humans miss. So some things like subtle duplicates and out of pattern premiums or spikes in claims, generative AI and agentic AI is really good at pattern matching. So those are areas that it can really excel, and we can start to leverage those in the bordereaux management and data management spaces. Third is predictive insights, right? So underwriting insights, and most of us use bordereaux data really reactively, and we've sort of talked about that as how do we get more predictive. And AI can let you do that. It can help shift you to a more predictive way of operating. You can model trends, you can forecast loss ratios at the binder level, or even flag risky programs based on similar past performances. So now you're just not reporting reactively, you're really anticipating and predicting sort of what underwriting insights you want. So I think there's a lot of use cases right now where AI is starting to play in, but a lot of it is really around that predictability, around that pattern matching, and those are areas that we're starting to see within bordereaux.
And I heard you say early stage versus early stage AI use.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. So we've got some time to go. Tony.
Yeah, just on that, Susan. I think we're going through a change we're going in from AI. We're going to wow to how. As Raoul said, there's a lot of good user cases, but it's almost as if we're trying to find a reason to use AI rather than it solving a business problem. Where the way we're looking at it at VIPR, and Raoul has covered one of the main areas that our AI stream is working on is data mapping, because obviously that is a really big issue. Where we're coming across some challenges, and it may be interesting to get some feedback from the audience, is if you don't have your own language model, then it can be contaminated by other people. So what I'm really trying to say there is, if we deliver a model that says everybody inputs to this and they all try and train and educate it, but if you do it slightly different to your neighbor, then actually you probably need your own large language model, because that will be trained the way you want to see that data, use that data, and work with that data. So we've been setting up quite a lot of programs with our clients to develop their sort of capability in AI. It's around mapping and it's around insight, as Raoul said, but we've been very conscious how we push that into the market. And by the way, it's all switchable. So for the organizations that aren't quite ready to embrace AI, they can switch it off. But those that want to experiment or try it, then they're able to get access to that through the standard product set.
And Tony, does it matter who you are in the supply chain? Like, we talked about now AI, but even beyond that, does it matter where you are in the supply chain? I'm a broker, for example. How does this solution like this fit into my specific duties and workflow?
Well, again, that's really interesting, because traditionally, the people that collect bordereaux are the people that we've worked with globally, but we're seeing an awful lot of global brokers now getting involved. There's a lot of brokers out there, fronting brokers, etc., that own the relationship with the distribution channel, and what they're now doing is that they're collecting the data on behalf of the capacity providers. They're cleansing the data and actually sending it through. And what we're seeing with some of our clients in London, for sure, where the global brokers are delivering that data in a semi-cleansed format, that it's actually going straight through the managing agent system. So they will always do validation. So it doesn't really matter who you are in the supply chain. And that's why I said at the beginning, our aim as an organization is to go right back and collect that data at source and cleanse it as early as possible. So we've got some new technologies coming out in terms of a data hub to collect that data from the managing, from the MGAs, from the cover holders, and then send it down the supply chain in a cleansed format. So we're using all sorts of techniques to make sure that this 130-year-old MGA growth path is going to be supported by technology, but it's still going to need humans in the loop to actually relate to the product, to change the product, and to add value to the insight that's being delivered.
I'm going to give everybody a 1 minute time to kind of wrap up what they think is the biggest opportunity here for the listening audience, and then we'll close with a way to connect further for additional detail. Greg, any last words that you'd like to convey to the listening audience on what we talked about today? What would you say is the most important important item that you want to have resonate with the audience before we close?
Yeah, the last thing is your current process really take into consideration speed to insights and actionable impact. I think that's what it boils down here. And if the answer is yes, you've got it figured out. But what we've seen, many people haven't. And a lot of that, how carriers look at MGAs, one last thing here is what type of discipline does this MGA have in play around managing that portfolio and staying on top of it and having a pulse on it. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Tony. You could actually read that testimonial again, or you could have a few comments, whatever you'd like, because both are probably just
I would just venture that, as we're seeing the growth, and I keep going back to the growth, if you don't automate, or you have some capability to process faster, then you're not going to get your share of the growth in this market, because throwing arms and legs at this problem is no longer an option. And I think if you automate, you've got a chance of grabbing your share. It will never be 100% automated. It's just not going to happen. But if we can automate in terms of taking data straight through for 50% of your book, that means you can double in size with the same number of people. So automate and actually scale and grab some of the growth in the market.
Rahul, your last statement on where you would like the audience to turn their heads towards.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're really passionate about helping organizations modernize, right? And I feel like bordereaux management tools are a step in the right direction for a lot of organizations, especially those that are still dealing with siloed data sets and sort of bordereaux reporting. So really taking this as an opportunity to help modernize, which does a couple of things. It kind of sets you into a data-driven culture, which right now, that's the most important thing. Insurance organizations are sitting on a gold mine worth of data, but are they really leveraging it for their efficiencies and for better, organizational performance? Most of them are not, to be honest. And I think giving an opportunity to have that data sort of set up properly so that you can then also build the foundation for AI and build a foundation to really have a connected ecosystem. That's something we're really excited about and passionate about right now.
Well, I want to thank our panelists today. And if there is additional information that needs to be conveyed, Rahul, would you just, this is this slide?
Yeah. Yeah, you can reach me at rahul.bhatia@sikich.com. It's right there on the slide. And I'm also on LinkedIn as well under Rahul Bhatia. So
Tony, Paul, and Brad, they're all here.
Yeah, we're all basically giving our sort of email addresses there. LinkedIn is a good source, and we can also provide customers that will give references and sort of case studies about how they've used the system. Quite happy to do that.
Thank you for joining us today, everyone. Have a great day.